You've eaten an animal this week, probably several: chicken, pork, beef. Every one of them ate plants. That isn't a coincidence. That's a rule. And you've obeyed it your whole life without ever being told it exists. Now picture a butcher's counter with a lion on it. Butchered, portioned, wrapped. 200 kilos of clean red muscle, exactly like beef. Nobody on earth will sell you that. Not one butcher, in any country, in any century. And here's the strange part. Nobody agreed on this. There was no meeting. People who'd never heard of each other, on continents that never touched, all landed on the same rule. Eat the things that eat plants. Leave the things that eat animals. So who wrote that rule? Start with the maths, because the maths almost settles it on its own. Energy doesn't survive the climb up a food chain. Grass to zebra, you lose most of it. Zebra to lion, you lose most of it again. Roughly 90% disappears at every step, which means it takes something like 10 kilos of prey to build 1 kilo of predator. And that shows up in the landscape as one simple fact. There are almost none of them. For every lion in a valley, there are hundreds of animals that are easier to catch, safer to approach, and bigger when you get them. You're never choosing between a cow and a lion. You're choosing between one lion and 100 better meals. So the obvious fix is to stop hunting them and start farming them. Except nobody does. There has never been a tiger farm next to a chicken shed, and there never will be. A cow eats grass, and grass is free. A lion eats meat, so to raise one lion, you first have to raise everything the lion eats. You'd be running an entire farm whose whole output feeds one animal that you then eat. The farmer goes bankrupt before the cub is grown, and they breed slowly on top of it. A cow gives you a calf a year. Big predators take years to mature and raise very few young. Every part of the maths points the same way. A predator costs more than it returns at every stage, forever. But cost isn't the only thing keeping it off your plate. Because before you can eat one, you have to win the fight. And how often does a man with a sharpened stick win that? Everything you eat is trying not to be eaten, but a zebra runs away. A lion doesn't. An animal that kills for a living is the single worst thing to attack with a sharpened stick. It's faster than you. It's armed. It's had far more practice. One bad afternoon, and your bloodline ends there. So even when the meat was worth something, the hunt could cost you everything. Now say you win. The animal is dead, you're standing over it, and nothing has gone wrong. You still have a problem. Because whatever was living inside it doesn't leave when it dies. Parasites concentrate as they climb a food chain, the same way energy drains out of it. A grazing animal picks up what's in the grass. A predator picks up everything that was inside everything it ever ate. An animal that has eaten 1,000 animals carries the collected load of all 1,000. And this isn't ancient history. Bear meat still causes outbreaks of trichinosis today, in countries with refrigerators, inspectors, and hospitals. The worms sit encysted in the muscle, survive under cooking, and hatch inside whoever eats them. Predators are also where the serious diseases live. An animal at the top of a chain has had its mouth in the blood and organs of everything below it, which makes it an excellent library of anything that can jump across into you. You survived the hunt. The meat is still trying to finish the job. Suppose you cook it through and nothing infects you. Are you finally getting a decent meal? No, you're going to be disappointed. The meat you like comes from animals bred to stand still and get fat. Cows in a field, pigs in mud, chickens that barely move. Soft muscle, fat spread evenly through it. That's what tender means. A predator is the opposite animal. Its muscle is built for sprinting and killing, worked hard its whole life, and extremely lean. That sounds healthy. It isn't useful. Fat is where the calories are, and fat is what carries flavor. Strip it out and you get a lot of protein and almost no energy, which is the opposite of what a starving human needs. So it's tough, it's dry, and it needs hours of cooking to become chewable at all. And then there's the smell. Predators run on protein and blood, and the byproducts of that end up in the tissue: ammonia, urea, sulfur compounds. A grazing animal's fat tastes mild, almost sweet. A predator's doesn't. Carnivores also carry scent glands for marking territory. Nick one while butchering and you can throw the entire carcass away. So even in the best case, a healthy animal, properly cooked, no parasites, you've spent enormous effort to produce a meal nobody at the fire wants. Which is bad. The next part is worse. Because some of it isn't merely unpleasant. Some of it is poison. Poison concentrates upward exactly the way parasites do. A small animal takes in a trace of something from its food. A bigger animal eats 100 of those and keeps nearly all of it. The animal at the top carries the load of everything underneath it. That's why heavy metals, mercury especially, pile up in predators. And it's why the higher up a food chain you eat, the more of everything toxic you eat with it. But the clearest case is a vitamin. Polar bears are apex predators. They eat seals, seals eat fish eat plankton, and vitamin A concentrates all the way up and ends in the bear's liver in quantities that will kill a person. Not a lot of it either. A couple of mouthfuls is enough to trigger acute vitamin A poisoning. Headaches, vomiting, then the skin begins peeling away in sheets. And this isn't theoretical. In 1912, an Antarctic expedition ran out of food and began eating their sled dogs, including the livers. One of the two men died. The other barely survived, and described the skin coming off his feet in complete layers. The leading explanation is vitamin A poisoning from the livers of animals that ate meat. Husky liver, a predator's liver. So, rare, dangerous, infested, unpleasant, and in places lethal. 5 separate problems, all pointing the same direction. Which raises an obvious question. If it is that bad, has anyone ever actually eaten one? Yes, and how they did it tells you everything. Predator meat turns up across history in one specific place on the menu. The bottom. It's famine food. The thing you eat when the herds have gone, the stores are empty, and the alternative is nothing. Not a feast, a last resort. And where it does show up by choice, it's almost never about the meat. Eating a predator has been about courage, or rank, or taking something from the animal. Its strength, its ferocity, its spirit. Cultures turn the animals at the top of the food chain into symbols instead of dinners. And that's where this story normally ends. A taboo. Something ancient and half-spiritual that we inherited and never examined. It's a good ending. It's also not the whole thing. Because there's one place where we eat apex predators constantly, industrially, and nobody has ever called it a taboo. You've probably eaten one this week. Tuna, swordfish, cod. Most of a fish counter. Every one of them spent its life hunting. And there's a good answer for why that's allowed. Fish are cold-blooded, so they waste nothing keeping warm. Water carries their weight, so they waste nothing standing up. A fish is simply cheap to grow, so it gets a pass. The rule didn't hold because tuna turned out not to be a predator. It bent because tuna turned out to be cheap. And it isn't only cheap to grow, it's cheap to take. You don't track a tuna. You don't corner it. It can't hurt you. You don't catch one. You drop a net and lift out 1,000 at once. Rarity stops mattering when you harvest a population instead of hunting an individual. Danger stops mattering when the animal can't fight a boat. So the moment the price collapsed, the rule collapsed with it, and nobody hesitated, including on the poison. Remember the mercury climbing the food chain? It's in the tuna. That's exactly why pregnant women are told to limit swordfish, shark and bigeye tuna, and not sardines. We know. We print it on the tin. We eat it anyway. Which tells you what the rule always was. Rare, dangerous, infested, unpleasant, poisonous. Those were never 5 reasons. They were 5 lines on one invoice. And for almost all of human history, for a person holding a spear, that invoice was impossible. So we didn't eat predators, not because they were sacred, because we couldn't afford them. It traveled as a taboo, because a taboo is how you hand arithmetic to people who can't do arithmetic. And the moment one kind of predator went on sale, we ate it without a second thought. The disgust you feel imagining a lion steak isn't ancient wisdom. It is a price tag.